John, we were talking about the John Forsythe show, which I take it's not one of your favorite ones, but I want to establish it in time. This is about 1965, isn't it, that you did that?
Yes.
You know, the other thing about that show, too, is that you did sort of an unusual thing in the plot line, didn't you? The development of that show, at first you were doing something, one thing, and then the show gradually you did something else. Didn't the show change in midstream? Didn't you go from being head of a
I
girls'
don't think
school?
it changed for the better. I think it changed for
But
the
didn't the
worse.
plot line have a pretty radical change?
Yes, I think so.
You went from being the head of a girls' school to becoming a spy or something like?
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that then. Okay, I thought that it changed
A
things.
spy?
Yeah. No, that's not okay. Okay, all right.
No.
Well, what about To Rome with Love? That's the third series that you did. That was in 1969.
That was a nice series.
How did that get together?
Walter Brennan, who was one of my favorites, I asked him, why don't we do a series together? He said, sure, let's do it. Well, it turned out to be a very, very good show. He played my grandfather, and let's see, I had
See, at Joyce
three
Mingus.
daughters.
Yeah, your daughters were what? Susan Neer, is that how you pronounce her
Yeah.
name? Melanie Fullerton
Yeah,
and Joyce is it Mingus?
right.
And then Kay Medford was also on the show.
Yeah, Kay Medford was kind of grandmother. Don't tell her I said so.
Well, your character was Michael Endicott.
Yeah,
What was the premise of the show?
premise to show that he was a writer living in Italy, in Rome, and took his children there, and his three girls, and the joys and the perils of raising a family in Rome.
And it had a catchy theme song, didn't
To Rome with Love. Yes.
it? Written by Jay Livingston and
Yes.
Ray Evans,
Yes.
which became a popular song. Again, what was it like working with your co-stars, these girls, and Walter Brennan?
Well, Walter Brennan was one of my idols. I thought he was one of the funniest and the best of he told me a funny story. He said, this old buzzard, he said, very much like me. He said, was walking down a road, and all of a sudden he heard a voice, and he looked up, and he said there was a frog. And the frog said, sir? He said, yeah. He said, are you interested in working out a deal with somebody? And Walter Brennan said, what kind of a deal you mean? He said, well, he said, if you are interested, he said, I could turn into the most beautiful woman that you have ever seen in your life. And I would love you madly, and I would fill your life with such joy that you would never know. And not only joy, but everything else too that a beautiful woman could want from, or a man want from a beautiful woman. He said, he reached over, picked up the frog, and he said, And he put the frog in his pocket and started to walk, hippity-hop down. And the frog said, hey, what's wrong? What are you doing? Why don't you want me to be a beautiful woman? He said, well, I tell you what, I think at this stage in my life, I'd rather have a talking frog than a beautiful woman.
Certainly worth more money, right?
I thought it was a funny line.
It's worth more money. Well, why did that show end? Why did The Rome with Love end?
Well, I think it was too much like the other shows that I had done. And the sameness sometimes palls a little bit.
Mm. So you think you got hurt in the ratings? Is that as a result?
No, we did all right in the ratings, but all right is not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
you know. All right has to be hot shot.
Well, after that series, throughout most of the 70s, you were very active in television movies made for TV. And then you also hosted a documentary series called The World of Survival.
Mm-hmm.
What was that about?
Well, that was about that was during my days when I was concerned about what was going on in the environment, and what I decided was I was going to go to Africa and do a series there. So The World of Survival was about animal life and the necessity for understanding and growing with animal life.
How long did you work on that program?
Oh, well, we did about 3 or 4 years. And I was the producer of the show, and we did very well.
Did you enjoy doing that show?
I enjoyed it immensely. It's an immense achievement to, first of all, geographically, to be all over Africa, and a series with animals can be wonderfully exciting if it's done well. And part of our show was done exceptionally well.
Well, talking about the television movies during this period of time, a couple of memorable notable shows. One was Lisa Bright and Dark in 1973.
Yes.
What was your role in that? I think you were in there with Ann Baxter, was one of your co-stars. And
Yeah.
what was that show about? Recall?
Well, it was that good program on the air that you don't have it.
The Lisa Bright and Dark.
No, but I mean, who were
You were with Ann Baxter and Kay Lenz.
No. And,
What's your role? I'll have to check on that.
no, not just the role, but who was the producer?
The director was, I believe, Jeannot SZWARC was the director.
Well, it was a very good program, but it was a complicated one to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was done under the auspices of this wonderful group that does great things on television, that supports good television.
Quality television.
Quality television. And I can't think of the name of it for a moment.
Well, I'll check that. But there was also, you did Emily in 1977.
For the same
people.
Yes.
That's right. Well, that was producer the Jaffes, Henry and Michael Jaffe were the producers.
Yeah, but they were just the nominal producers.
Oh, I see.
The people who were producing the show.
Oh, Bob Banner.
Bob Banner was a nominal producer too.
Oh, he was too.
But
and Tom Egan.
None of them.
None of them were the.
No.
Okay.
None of them were the group that I'm.
I see. All right. Well, I'll have to check on that.
Yes.
But you had done a number of television movies at this point through the 70s. Was this a particular genre or format that you really enjoyed being in? Is that something you really kind of wanted to specialize in, was television movies? Is that just the way your career was going in that direction?
Well, I think a good television movie is an exciting event. Uh, it's very, very hard to come up with good stories. But occasionally there's a small gem that is done on television that is so moving, like Marty, for example. Marty, the television film, started a whole wealth of programs because it was small, compact, and very, very meaningful. And I think television was leaning toward that direction.
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the Lisa Bright and Dark and Emily. Wasn't that the Hallmark Hall of Fame?
Hallmark, that's what it was.
And that was the quality.
They do outstanding qualitative work and support. They're a very good support group.
Mm-hmm. And you enjoyed working with them.
Oh, yes, yes.
You you co-starred in a film, Injustice for All, which was in 1979, which was with Al Pacino. What was it like to work with Al Pacino?
Well, he's a very gifted guy. There's no doubt about that. It was a very good picture, and I played a heavy for the first time. And as a result of that, I got about 3 or 4 offers to play different heavies, which I decided against. I was going to do it once, but it's not my milieu, not by any means. And
well, you were quite a heavy in that movie, if I remember.
Boy, oh boy, was I!
And you had Jack Warden in that, and Lee Strasberg, and
yes,
quite a crew.
Pacino is a very, very interesting guy. Very quiet, very very deeply stirred. When he goes, he blows to the sky. He's a wonderful actor, and he was very pleasurable to work with, but complicated man.
And Norman Jewison was the
he was the director, yes, and a good one too, Norman Jewison.
Well, then about this time, 1976, you began a 5-year run on the series Charlie's Angels.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to be? First of all, what was your role on Charlie's Angels?
Charlie was the guy who rounded up the 3 beautiful and exciting young ladies and gave them assignments to do. That was his chore in life.
What were these assignments? What kind of assignments?
Well, mostly anti-crime assignments. And the girls were beautiful, and they were talented, and they represented the good against the evil. So it was a series made in heaven.
Well, and you actually weren't on screen though, were you?
No, that was part of the fun. Just the voice dictating. I must tell you how that came about too. About 7 years before, what was I? Yeah. About 12 o'clock at night, 7 years after I had stopped doing so much television, I got a phone call. I was sitting in bed reading, and I got a phone call. It said, "John?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Aaron Spelling." I said, "Hello, Aaron, how are you?" He said, "I'm very good, very good." He said, "I want to run something by you." I said, "It's 12:30. You're going to run something by me at 12:30? Catch me when I'm keen and sharp." He said, No, this can't wait." I said, what's the problem? He said, I have a show that is going to be a hit. It's got 3 girls, and it's going to be a hit. Now, I have to get this show, this is Friday night. I have to get this show to New York and to ABC to get it on the air Monday. I said, but what? You got that show, haven't you? He said, yeah, but we don't have one element. And I said, what's that? He said, I don't have Charlie. I said, how could you do that? How could you put a show on the air and you don't have Charlie? He said, well, the fellow that was going to play it, turns out, has been drinking. And he's not capable of handling this kind of thing. And I said, well, it's 12:30 on a Friday night. I said, and I'm sitting in bed and I'm in my pajamas reading a book. What did you think? He said, I think you ought to come over to 20th Century Fox right now. They'll point you about where to go, down in the bowels of 20th Century Fox, and we'll do our version of it. I said, okay, Aaron, you're the boss. So I put over my pajamas, put a trench coat and bedroom slippers, and I get in my car and I get down to Fox. And they're all standing there waiting because every minute counts. They've got to go right from scratch all the way through. And he was never seen on camera.
Charlie
was never seen on camera. But he was an essential part of the show. So I did it, and he said, it's great. It's just great. And I can't tell you how grateful I am. I said, okay, Aaron, I'm going back to bed. So Monday morning, about 12 o'clock, I get a phone call. We're on the air. I said, you're on the air doing what? He said, the show is on the air. We got one of the best time slots ever. He said, don't you want to stay on and do it? I said, oh, God, I don't know. Let me see the show first. He said, don't give me that stuff. Don't you want to do it? I said, all right, I'll do it. Okay. So we were on the air for 5 years. We could have been on for 10 years. But the girls kept disappearing. And as a result, you lost a lot of the audience that was with it right from the very beginning.
Identifying with individual actresses.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you went ahead and decided to be the voice, Charlie's voice.
Sure. And it was fine. And I was doing a wildlife show, The World of Survival. They would send me the tapes and send me the script, and I would do them from Africa, do them from Europe, or wherever I was. And it was a wonderful assignment.
How did you know Aaron Spelling before this?
Well, I'd worked with him about 5 or 6 times.
How was he to work with?
Wonderful. He's enthusiastic, he's talented, and a hard worker. So I thought under those auspices, it would be a good thing for me to do. So I was doing Dynasty at the same time. I was doing 3 television shows at the same time. I was doing Dynasty, Charlie, and the Wildlife Show, which is unheard of in television history.
Absolutely, particularly shows that big. Occasionally, wouldn't the viewers get a little glimpse of Charlie? Was that you, or did they have another?
No, they would put somebody in the chair and shoot over his ear or somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
But I told if they wanted me to be on camera, if they wanted me in the flesh, they were going to have to pay a lot of money, pay for my body. And
so they never got you from the rear, in other words. That wasn't you.
first of all, it was against the whole thing that we were trying to come up with. It was an unusual thing when you just had a voice as the commanding figure.
Was that one of the hooks of the show?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the idea, in fact.
Absolutely.
Did you ever want to be on the show? Did you ever want to play
No.
cameo or anything like that?
No.
You know, kind of sneak in?
I didn't even ever go on the show when they were filming it to be with the girls. You know, I kept my distance.
Well, you know, so you recorded the lines wherever you happened to be, whenever they found you, right? As far as the show is concerned, and so it really didn't take up that much of your time, I guess. But you visited the set and you saw the stars. I mean,
No,
you never
I didn't
did
visit the set.
Oh, you didn't visit the set at all.
No, I
see.
kept the distance.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
even
I thought the mystique would help it.
Mhm.
You know.
Well, we had Farrah Fawcett in that show, of course, and Kate
Yes.
Jackson, Jacqueline Smith. Later
Yeah.
on, Cheryl Ladd, and Shelley
Yeah.
Hack, Tanya Roberts. Did you watch the show?
Sure. I thought it was a good show, for what it was. You know, it was obviously a pot boiler, but a good one. And the girls were delightful.
Well, my daughter was telling me, she's 14, that she was telling me last night at dinner, she was with me here in Santa Barbara, that there's a Charlie's Angels movie coming out this
is.
year.
And I'm doing the voice.
Are you involved in the project?
Yeah. Just same way.
So
voice.
you're reprising your the voice of Charlie. How did you get back involved in that?
They called me up. Aaron Spelling did, and somebody else at Columbia who's producing it. But it was a simple thing, you know.
Have they made any
You
changes?
jump from one to the other very easily.
Do you know if they've made any changes in the concept of Charlie, or you did the usual thing that you did for the television series?
Same thing, exactly the same.
Well, in 1981, you began working on Dynasty for ABC. How did Dynasty come about? How did that start?
Well, again, that was Aaron Spelling. If he likes you, and he liked me, we had a good time together. And if he thought you were a good actor, he tried to utilize you. So, Dynasty, I had three shows again, you know, running at the same time. And I had a bicycle, and I would bicycle from one place to the next. As simple as that.
Who were Richard and Esther Shapiro?
They were writers, and they started out with, I thought, a very, very good, tough, sound concept. But they got a little distracted after a while. And after 5 years, I think we had enough.
Were they pretty actively involved in the day-to-day shooting as writers, or did they?
Oh, they were very much involved. They were omnipresent.
Well, what was the premise of the show? What was the premise of Dynasty for people who will be looking at this tape 50 years from now?
Well, it was about a family in Denver, Colorado, and the head of which was a powerful, somewhat magnetic figure, a tremendously wealthy man who had a family and a very trying group his family were. His son was had a predilection toward homosexuality. His daughter was kind of a wild one. his wife was the most beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful and remarkable woman. And above all, one of his great enemies was Joan Collins, his ex-wife, who desperately tried to wreck his life and all the people around him. So it was a very, very fruitful avenue to follow.
And your role was, what was the person you played? What was his name?
His name was Blake Carrington, and he was one of the richest men in the United States. Owned a football team, owned incalculable number of big businesses, and had the devil's own time with his own family, and was a powerhouse away from his family.
Any models that you drew from or used? Any sources of people that you knew or anything that to shape your character and how you acted?
No, I think that that those kinds of men are fairly well known, and they don't need pointing out. I mean, there's a whole group of men who are failures in many, many ways in their immediate family, but who are tremendously powerful and successful as human beings.
So it's really more of a kind of a classic role in a sense.
It is.
It is a well-known
Yes.
type.
Yes.
Let's talk about working with some of these people. Let's start with Joan Collins. Talk about Joan Collins. What's it like to work with Joan Collins?
Well, she's a very talented lady, very charismatic, and to play an ex-wife is a complicated thing. A divorced ex-wife and mother of the children. We got along very well, but the better relationship was between Linda Evans and me. It was the easier, calmer, more receptive area.
And of course, Linda, let me make it clear for the record, Linda Evans played your beautiful wife, and
Yes.
Joan Collins played, of course, your ex-wife. as
That's
you
right.
mentioned.
That's right.
But your working relationship with Linda Evans was a lot smoother than with Joan.
Well, I think that very often what happens is that the outcome of what the work is largely based on the truth of what it is, and the truth of it was that I was much more comfortable with Linda than I was with Joan,
Well,
who was a very, very good actress, incidentally.
let's take this point then to change tape.